Realist Ripple Effects Mapping Evaluation with Hatbury University and Active Essex. Over to you, Louis.
Awesome. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, you're all good. I see your slides.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. So yeah, thanks for having me along to speak. And as you'll see, I'm speaking on behalf of quite a big team, which I know many of us have to today. So I think it's really important to recognise everyone's contribution. Yeah, I'm here to talk about positioning realist evaluation. Some of you might be familiar with ripple effects mapping, which has come up already. So hopefully this might help. It might raise some more questions, but Laura and Linny, I hope I pronounced that correctly. Some of the challenges definitely ripple effects mapping we've seen as well. Yeah, so to begin, just slight context. Chris has talked about Active Calderdale and the work going on in deprived areas. The work that this is based within is with Active Essex. So one of those 12 areas being looked at, focusing on Essex, and myself doing some work with them around evaluation, realist evaluation. And one of the latest projects was around ripple effects mapping and realist evaluation. So some of the rationale for synthesizing these methods. Realist evaluation, it's open to innovation and development. We've seen a number of alliances over the years. So Sonia Dalkin, I think it's Professor Sonia Dalkin now to give her full title, has got a couple of examples there, as well as Dr. Kev Harris using Q method, collaborative approaches to evaluation. So one thing I'll talk about within this as well is around that collaborative approach to evaluation, where it might share some of the principles as we go along. Despite the value that realist evaluation does bring, there's lots of challenges to it. And if anyone's tried using it with people that haven't engaged in realist evaluation, with critical realism, scientific realism, especially with practitioners out working, delivering to the community, it can be quite a pushback in terms of not engaging with it, the jargon, complexity of it, limitations in getting everyone to participate, which hopefully you can see where this is going. How can we bring the real to life, but by bringing everyone in and keeping them involved within the evaluation? So ripple effects mapping was something that was brought up through Dr. James Nobles, who I know can't be here today, but is key in terms of helping to shape this method as well. The idea of being able to capture lots of data, being able to capture lots of people's input, the impacts that go on, and to get people to reflect and participate was really important. And what we've seen is that a lot of the staff that we tried to engage with realist evaluation on its own at the beginning of our relationship with Active Essex wasn't quite as smooth, whereas ripple effects mapping has been taken on a lot more in terms of people engaging with it, understanding it quicker, and being able to share their thoughts. And it's been an opportunity for them to reflect as well in terms of their experience of the programme or initiative, and apply that and visualise that as well. So for those of you not familiar with ripple effects mapping, it's we follow the Nobles approach, Nobles et al. 2022, a qualitative method helping to capture the intended and unintended outcomes. So we bring together the stakeholders so that they can map out their impacts of their work, helpful for system change, sector integration, understanding those types of things, but also to help inform like the program development, initiative development, way of working, and mapping out impact pathways as well, which the example we've taken from Dr. James Nobles and Dr. Jennifer Hall that provide some ripple effects mapping training is at the bottom of the screen there. For us, it was really important, and for Active Essex, that lots go on in terms of trying to influence the system around physical activity, work with different partners, different sectors, but actually, is all that data being collected? Do Active Essex know what is going on beyond if they're having conversations with someone, signposting to other opportunities, providing training for people but not being able to follow up and find out what goes on, that ripple effects mapping is an opportunity to understand and identify what is going on potentially. One of the drawbacks of this is when you host a workshop, you're reliant on the people that can attend the workshop and the information provided within that workshop. So if people can't attend, do you have the resource? Do you have the time to go and chase up other people that might need to be there? Or do you have to just rely on that data that you've got at that moment in time? So what does a workshop look like? Again, building on the Nobles et al. Paper, we focusing around 2.5 hours in length. We'd like to do them in person, so we've got that opportunity to really speak and collaborate, ask questions and challenge. People got more of an opportunity to speak and share their thoughts when they're not behind a screen, potentially do another task as well, and you can really help facilitate those conversations. But using online tools, we've used MiroBoard. I know James has used other tools as well, Canva, Microsoft PowerPoint as well, different ways to do that. So James, Dr. Nobles, we talk about the between 20 and 30 participants. It's not always possible to get that many people into a room. We've done some sessions with around 10 people, but I'm sure if you had enough facilitators, you could do that with far more as well. And we like to start off with a warm-up around conversations around what's important to the individuals in the project, so they can start to talk about some of the impacts, some of the things that have been going on, and then that leads into the actual mapping out of the activities. So here's an example of a ripple effects map that we've done, put online, digitized, sorry. Now you can see that it's not exactly clean, it's not exactly tidy, and I'm sure Laura and Linny will talk about their experience in terms of reflecting back over 5 years. Actually, yeah, the timeline is really difficult, and sometimes you just want to get things on the page, and sometimes things can be missed. So we've used it as an opportunity to go back with the participants, the key stakeholders, sorry, just to confirm some of the things that were said and dates, but it's not going to be perfect. And the future workshops is an opportunity for them to, I don't want to say improve because that's probably the wrong term, but to corroborate and make sure things are in the right place. So it's not my job as the researcher to go, oh, I think that goes there, but actually to let them do it. Now, why realists? And this is a key point of our realist ripple effects mapping, that we're not just doing the ripple effects mapping in terms of impacts and identifying what has happened, but we want to know the how and the why of it. So it's come up a lot today about that, how and why do things work in different contexts for different people. So we see ripple effects mapping as a great opportunity to bring people together in participatory settings, to focus on the outcomes, focus on the impacts, what has happened or what should have happened but maybe didn't. And then the realist approach can help to identify generative causality and help us to explain those impacts, to explain what's happened, what the outcomes. And within the workshops themselves, the research team are constantly asking what we call how and why questions, or realist interview questions, where we have conversations just to dig deeper. If something has happened, a participant puts an impact down, links it to another impact, or this led to this. Okay, well, why was that? What happened? Were there any people that were important in doing that? Okay, can you tell me a little bit more so that we can understand more about it rather than just what happened? And like a good marriage, I'm not married, so you guys might disagree with this and improve this for me, but we'd like to think that they bring them out the best in each other, as well as mitigating their limitations. So the benefits of ripple effects mapping, bringing people together, there's not a lot of challenge necessarily around potentially the jargon or accessing it, whereas realist evaluation does have those challenges. and then the realist evaluation can look to dig deeper and go further than just trying to identify what happened and what might not have happened as well that was initially planned. So we're currently working towards a protocol paper on realist ripple effects mapping. Hopefully get that into publication in the next couple of weeks if I can really sort myself out, but I'm sure you've all experienced that as well. And then hopefully at some point in the next year, however long it takes, that'll be open access for everyone to access. So the model itself, to be improved with a graphic designer, I'm sure. Phase 1 is about identifying the impacts and their perceived explanation. Phase 2, investigating impacts and explaining their causes. Then phase 3, learning from our impacts and their causes to inform practice. Now, going a bit deeper into phase 1, we start off the process with a discovery workshop. Let's try and identify the parameters for the evaluation. What's it going to be focusing on? With Active Essex, we've looked at asset-based community development, which is wide all the way across Essex. They're trying to implement that within training provided for people and their way of working across local authorities, different sectors. So actually, is that realistic for us to do a whole map of the whole of Essex? No. So let's focus it down. What evidence do we already have? What's most important to people that are in the room? And what steps can we take from there? That leads us into our workshop 1, where we've invited the people that were important to that focus from the discovery workshop into this workshop, so they can start identifying the impacts, mapping them out, and starting to develop some realist causal insight through those conversations that we have with individuals in the room as well, starting to identify further people that we might need to talk to or different things we need to look at. And then the development of the maps, digitizing the maps, depending on how you do it, capturing those impact pathways. So are there those connections going on? There'll be examples of ripple effects mapping where people just put post-it notes or just write impacts on, but don't connect them. So it's a really key part of being a facilitator to make sure, right, what's happening as a result of something else. Can you make sure that we're connecting them? We found a lot of the time that people were great at speaking and telling us what had happened, but writing it down and connecting it in between conversations was really difficult. So one of the key things was having facilitators there, staff that were the doers, writing things down and really going, actually, can you repeat that? Right. Oh, can you make sure that's on a post-it note and down? Does this connect with that? And then identifying causal connections. So within our realist piece, this is our program theory, our CMMO configuration. We've called them causal connections to keep the connection with impact pathways and within ripple effects mapping, trying to keep people involved rather than turning them off with some of the realist jargon. But essentially, they are the program theories that inform the impact pathways, the maps that we are seeing. Phase 2, so investigating impacts and explaining their causes. So we've developed our causal connections based off that initial mapping, and it's an opportunity for us to go out and test these causal connections. So far, we've done interviews, we've done conversations, focus groups, going out and using those causal connections to inform our questioning, our conversations, but also opportunities for people to come in and that miss the initial workshop 1, and add to the map as well, so that we can start to collect and map out wider. But it also gives an opportunity for the participants to go out and actually work and live on their program, so that when they come back for workshop 2, they can continue to add to it. Now, what we like to do as well is make sure that the workshop 2 includes that time to go over those causal connections, to pose them to the group and ask for their feedback. That collaborative, iterative process, constantly taking that insight, refining it where there's new data, new insight. And I think that's where it's different from ripple effects mapping, especially. That's an opportunity to really test that theory, gauge that feedback, and then again go back to the process of testing it, refining the causal connections, and further exploring it using a retroductive approach. And then phase 3. So this is where we're looking at towards the end of the evaluation. We've done our mapping exercise. We prepare the not quite final map, but almost final map for workshop 3, so that we can present it to the group, get the last bits of what I call like emergency data onto the map, posing those causal connections again, that opportunity for feedback, potentially people that haven't been involved before, potentially people that see it through a different lens, challenge it in different ways. And then after that, it's a case of finishing, finalising the maps, finalising the impact pathways, the causal connections, corroborating the evidence, and then taking that into the next step with the stakeholders, programme funders, whoever it is, so that we can put that learning into action, that dissemination. And that's something that we're really trying to focus on now. How can we make sure that goes beyond the research team and it goes to the practitioners, policymakers, people that aren't just collecting the data and analysing it, but trying to put that into practice and inform future programme development as well. That's my presentation on realist ripple effects mapping. It is it's the first time that we know of it being paired together.